Welcome back in our panel on this Thursday morning. We start with the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy, with us. Senior contributor for The Federalist, Benjamin Weingarten, back with us. And National Advisory Board member for Project 21, Christopher Arps, is here as well. Benjamin, we'll start with you. I want to play you a soundbite from Joe Biden. He was on ABC yesterday talking about the situation at our southern border. Take a listen.
Yes, I can say quite clearly, don't come. And what we're in the process of getting set up, and it's not going to take a whole long time, is to be able to apply for asylum in place. So don't leave your town or city or community.
All right, so just play along with me for a second here. I can remember countless Christmas mornings as a kid where I'd be on the top of the stairs with my brothers and sisters waiting to come downstairs. And my parents would say, nope, it's not time yet. You can't come down yet. But one of us would inevitably go downstairs and peek into the family room where Santa had arrived the night before. That's what Joe Biden's saying right there. He's like, you know what? We're getting things organized. We're getting some lights put in, and just give us a couple of days. It's kind of a ridiculous statement.
I mean, a few points. First, does that instill confidence in the American people that this is a commander-in-chief who actually is going to defend and protect our sovereignty and speak strongly and act accordingly to the rest of the world? Number two, he's essentially talking about what the Trump administration policy was, which was remain in Mexico, which is international law pretty much everywhere. The country that you're trying to come through into America from, you have to stay in while this process works itself out. But all of this sets aside, and we suspend disbelief from the fact that we know the Democrat Party writ large wants to have a mass amnesty. And of course, then that's going to incentivize people to want to come across the border and disregard whatever sort of soft talk the administration is putting forth. So who is he trying to fool with comments like this? What audience is he even playing to? It's very clear what the administration wants here.
And those comments are not 6 months ago. These are a day ago. So if you are in Mexico or Central America or the Middle East, we've got people that have been apprehended from Yemen and Iran and Turkey. Is that going to be a deterrent, what the president just said, Chris? I don't think that would deter anybody from coming to the border.
It's not, Rob. They're sending complete mixed messages. You know, the president said that don't come, we're not ready for you yet. But you have Jen Psaki, the press secretary, that's saying that we're accepting children if they come. We're not going to send them back. You know, I wrote an article that's in this morning for redstate.com where I basically said, and the title of the article is this latest crisis is nothing but a voter registration drive for the Democratic Party. He wants to legalize these folks when they come in and give them green cards and allow them to work. And we've seen in many, many instances where people with green cards, they get driver's licenses, they end up on the voting rolls, and they vote.
2/3 vote Democratic. Betsy, do you agree with Chris? Do you think that this is a drive to flip Texas blue?
I do, but not just Texas, because this border crisis is not just at the border. It is a crisis that's going to affect all of us, no matter where we live. Yeah. It's going to affect our children who are struggling to get back to school, because some of these young migrant children will be placed in their classes. They know no English. They need health support, psychological support. All those resources and the attention of that classroom teacher will be focused on those very needy, traumatized migrants rather than on all the other kids in the class. And if you're looking for a job right now, you're going to be competing at the bottom end of the economic ladder with these migrants who are coming across, who also tend to be less educated, willing to work for lower wages, and are the poorest among us. The Democrats keep claiming they want less inequality in our society, but this open border policy is exacerbating inequality. It's creating a permanent underclass of people willing to work for the lowest wages.
And Lieutenant Governor is correct. It's not just Texas and the border states. You know, in St. Louis, where I live, is a progressive city and wants to be a sanctuary city. Our population growth is stagnant. So our city is encouraging illegals and folks that come to this country to spur up our population here. So we're going to see these folks all over the country.
That's a good point. All 50 states become border states if this continues. Benjamin, would you say that what we're experiencing on the southern border right now is a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger?
All of the above and more.
That's the definition of the word crisis. something the administration refused to call this. Let me play you a soundbite from Alejandro Mayorkas on his definition of crisis, then we'll get your reaction. Take a listen.
I will share with you how I define a crisis. A crisis is when a nation is willing to rip a 9-year-old child out of the hands of his or her parent and separate that family to deter future migration. That, to me, is a humanitarian crisis. And what the president has committed to, and what I am committed to and execute, is to ensure that we have an immigration system that works and that migration to our country is safe, orderly, and humane.
I mean, the fluffy language is fine, but I'm so glad for our Newsmax viewers right now that are watching us. Here are the facts. 500 unaccompanied minors are crossing the border each and every day. So 500 more will cross today. If I were in the room, I would say that to Mayorkas. I'd be like, well, that's great, that's fine, but what about the 500 that are crossing right now? Benjamin, we'll start with you.
Secretary Mayorkas, it is a crisis when you're prioritizing illegal aliens, non-citizens, over Americans, when we're dealing with a time of tumult, when we're dealing with economic chaos, when we're dealing with a cultural revolution in this country. It is a crisis when you shunt aside the rule of law purportedly for compassion, but which actually leads to disastrous humanitarian consequences for the people involved. And it is a crisis when we do not have sovereignty in a country. If you don't have borders, you don't have a nation. It's a truism and it's a cliche, but it's also a crisis, and it's a crisis purely of this administration's making.
Betsy?
I'd like to point out that these children who are crossing unaccompanied are carrying with them, in almost every case, the name and phone number and address of someone who has agreed to sponsor them. About half the time, it's a parent who's already here, otherwise another relative. The parents of these children separated from the children. The government didn't do it. They sent these children across the border freely. It was their decision. They knew the kids could get across. So they gave them the names and phone numbers and said, go for it. It's not a decision I as a parent would make. Those are desperate parents. But don't blame the U.S. government for separating parents and children at the border. It's the parents who have sent these children on this very perilous trip.
Yeah, and don't chastise the American people. That's what Secretary Mayorkas was doing there, like blaming the American people for the issues at the border. This is Joe Biden's self-inflicted crisis. We've got about 30 seconds left, Chris. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Dan Bongino. He's going to be taking over for Rush Limbaugh. Immensely big shoes to fill. I know that you've got a radio show. What are your thoughts?
Rob, you just made news to me this morning. I did not hear that. So congratulations to Bongino. He does have very big shoes to fill, and I've enjoyed his radio show in the past, so I'll be continuing to listen to Mr. Limbaugh. Congratulations. I
think it could be Joe DiMaggio handing off the reins to Mickey Mantle here. I think that Bongino's in a position to succeed here. Panel, we'll pick this right back up after the break. I want to get back into this, and we'll talk about Andrew Cuomo a little bit as well. Always stuff to talk about there, so I'll see you guys in just a moment.